June 12th, 2025. Okay, starting off strong. So, we got a good question today from the private Facebook group. And before we kick off that, we'll do a few Linchpin shout outs and then we'll just dive right into it. First one is from Chris L, talking about Linchpin and the BTWB app. He says that is basically the best collaboration ever. Linchpin programming and education plus the BTWB app, the interface, the tracking is a match made in heaven. He's got over 7 years of using the app and over 6 years of following the Linchpin private track, and the evolution of both has been amazing to be a part of. The amount of value I have received has far outweighed the cost. The data never lies. Happy customer right here. Keep up the great work. That is a great review. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, these are from the squats that we did yesterday. Man, those squats, which relate to the question today. This is from Billy S. after doing the squats. And the squats were, here was the rep range. It was a set of 3 at 80%, a set of 5 at 75, a set of 7 at 70%, a set of 9 at 65%, and a set of 11 at 60% of your 1 rep max. And Billy says, much needed heavy day today, added a bit of height to my box jumps, etc., etc. So my 1 rep max is 305, but the percentage I went with was from an assumed 1 rep max of 345 pounds. So he says it might be time to retest his new squat max. Yeah, I would say that, Billy. If your 1 rep max is 305, but instead of using those percentages, you use percentages based on a 40-pound increase of your 1 rep max, and you successfully executed those back squats, yeah, I would say that you need to go ahead and retest that 1 rep. He says, loving the program. I keep saying it, but never thought at 43 years old I'd be doing things that I'm doing and increasing my fitness level. Congratulations. So his squats were, he did 3 reps at 275, 5 at 265, 7 at 240 pounds, 9 at 225 pounds, and 11 at 210 pounds. So, yeah, good day in the gym. And final shout out. This is from Katie B, and this is what she has to say about Linchpin. The different workout options provided are great for me, especially with a home gym and somewhat limited equipment. I'm learning a lot by listening to the videos and the podcast. It overall has felt very enjoyable and zero pressure. Very cool. Okay, let's go ahead and dive right in. So the question today is from Manny S. And Manny posted, not sure if this has been talked about already, but it's about from how to move from scaled workouts to the prescribed workouts. It says, I've been doing CrossFit for 12 years, currently 40 years old. My strength gains have slowed to a crawl, leaving me in the scaled or wild card tier for most workouts. My question isn't about skills acquisition, but about moving the needle on my pure strength numbers so that I can finally hit RX. What's the most effective path forward? Finding ways to progressively overload within Metcons, or prioritizing a separate strength-focused training, or biting the bullet and attempting the RX weights, even if it means drastically longer workout times or a compromised metabolic stimulus. So there's also, a nutritional component to that as well. But, we're going to table that for a second, just talk about what's going to be an effective route for you. So, Manny, what I want to chat about for this, which will apply to a lot of people, is just progressive overload in general. What does that mean? Because that term gets thrown around a lot, like zone 2 gets thrown around a lot. So what does that mean? And what does that mean maybe as a separate, like progressive overload as applied to like a just separate 4, 8-week, 12-week, lifting cycle protocol? And do the concepts of progressive overload apply to your daily CrossFit workouts? If so, how can you do that? And then that other topic you said of like, hey, should I just suck it up and struggle through the prescribed weights and just see, what's going to happen? So we're going to discuss all those things right now. But here's what jumped out the page at me. Something is askew, and I don't know what it is. Okay, so I believe you. I believe everything that you said, but something is, I can't quite put my finger on what's going on. Been doing this for a while, had exposure to thousands and thousands of athletes, so when I talk, I feel like I've got a pretty good background and base of what applies to most people under most circumstances most of the time, right? And there are for sure every now and then outliers. And based upon your initial scenario that you laid out, it kind of feels like you've got some outlier stuff going on there that I can't quite figure out. So I want to try to figure it out. So if you're 40 right now and you started doing CrossFit anyway 12 years ago, that means you started when you're 28 years old. I mean, just a great athletic season of life. After 12 years, you would be an extraordinarily rare individual if prescribed loadings are generally still outside of your ability level. So that's interesting to me. So I'd love to know, like, what is that 12 years, what does it look, what did you do before that, prior to being 28 years old and starting CrossFit? And then the last 12 years, is that 12 years of just serious dedication, never missing a week? You know, are there huge gaps in there? Do you have some sort of limitation going on that I'm not aware of? Are you ferociously attacking workouts, nutrition's on point, sleep's there for 12 years? Like, if that's the case, again, it's not impossible, but highly unusual that after 12 years you would struggle with a prescribed loading. And I'm not talking about some crazy workout that is an anomaly, that the prescribed loading for that particular day is very heavy. But if we're talking prescribed loadings are, generally speaking, for guys, a 225 deadlift for a 21:59 rep scheme, a 95-pound barbell thruster, a 135 for a clean and jerk, like that sort of a atmosphere, if that's still kind of challenging after 12 years, highly unusual. So I would love to know prior history. I'd love to know your height and weight as well. Again, what the last 12 years has looked like. Do you remember starting points for those lifts, and how do certain lifts or loads look after 12 years? And after all of this stuff, I know that I'm still going to have questions. I have to make some assumptions for what we're about to talk into. So, Manny, email me. I want us to chat. I want to learn more. I want to figure out what's happening here and get some answers for you. So email me at info@crossfitlinchpin.com. Let's chat. Okay. So progressive overload gets thrown around a lot, and it's usually thrown around with just like a separate program, like the Wendler 531 or something. Like, it's this linear, multi-week progression. There's a deload week layered in there. I look at it, it's very simple to understand. It's which I think is why it's also so popular. Very simple to understand. You're doing this today, it's going to be this percentage, and next week or the week after, it's going to be that percentage plus this much. And you can do this many repetitions, and you're going to stop. Like, it's just, you can shut your brain off, you can do it, and that's it. And the overall goal of such programs is to increase whatever that particular lift happens to be. But if you think about it, there's an end state to that, right? Because obviously, if you could just, every time that 4-week program or 8-week program or 12-week program ended, if you could just start back over and do it for another 4 to 12 weeks and all your lifts went up, if you did that for the rest of your life, your deadlift would be 3,000 pounds. Like, at some point in time, like, it's going to stop, it's going to plateau, right? So there's a bit of an end point there, but they do have utility and value. But let's just go ahead and understand that. So if we're just discussing, let's discuss what progressive overload is in broad brush terms. Then we can talk about how is this something which can be applied to your daily workouts, whether you're doing Linchpin or something else, in kind of a CrossFit world, if you will. So, just general talking points. Progressive overload. What is it? It is progressive overload in strength training is a strategy where you gradually increase the difficulty and or intensity of your workouts to stimulate muscle growth and strength gains. This involves increasing weight, reps, sets, or decreasing rest over time, progressively challenging your body and forcing it to adapt. Makes sense, right? And actually, not just with a linear strength progression, but sounds like what most of us do on a regular basis, right? Trying to increase weight, doing more reps, doing more sets, less rest, faster pace, stimulates the body, good things happen. Let's see. So there are four common ways or four common paths that apply to, again, this is broad brush progressive overload. This is number one, increasing the weight or the load. Number two, increasing the duration of your training. Number three, increasing intensity. And number four, increasing repetitions. Increasing the weight of the load, the duration of training, the intensity of the session, or the repetitions. So we'll chat about those four in general terms, not necessarily in CrossFit terms, and then we'll circle back and discuss them in CrossFit terms, because one of Manny's things was, could I apply like a progressive overload principle to my daily CrossFit workouts? Is that even possible? Now here's a good point of general progressive overload as well. It says, however, it is important to note that the importance of always listening to the body. If a person has sustained an injury or is feeling tired or just feeling weak, they should take a break or decrease the intensity of their workout. Right, so maybe you have a deload week that's supposed to be 4 weeks from now or 5 weeks from now, but again, what happens if you are wrecked way before that deload week? You're just supposed to grind through the session? That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. So it's not, there's also this part of like, hey, I'm going to follow this highly structured thing, which I can shut my brain off, but you can't shut your brain off. Because how did you sleep? How did you eat? Are your kids driving you crazy? Have you not slept? Is someone in your household sick? Are you starting to get sick? So all of these things, you still have to bring in that strength and conditioning IQ, that fitness IQ to realize what you're doing, understand the program, understand yourself, and make the best decision possible for what it is. But with that being said, let's go ahead and chat about each one of those four common aspects of progressive overload, the theory in general, from a general strength and conditioning program perspective. Then we'll break it down from a CrossFit way. So number one, increasing the weight. Gradually placing additional stress on the muscles causes them to break down, rebuild, good things happen. For example, they use bench press. Week one, you're going to perform a bench press with 100 pounds of weight. You circle back to it in week 4, you're performing it with 105 pounds this time. You circle back in week 8, you're performing it with 110. So you're just, and that could be for the dead, that could be for the squat. Maybe it's not that many weeks between each lift, but whatever it is, that's increasing weight. So great. That's the first general principle of progressive overload, which makes sense. You're progressively overloading. Number two, increasing the length of a workout. Now, maybe in CrossFit terms, we're like, I don't want the workout to take me longer, but this is not CrossFit. This is general strength program. So increasing the length of a workout helps a person build endurance. This can improve both cardiovascular fitness and strength. So for example, they can try running, cycling, swimming an additional 15 minutes weekly. Maybe in week 1, they perform a 30-minute session. The next time, week 4, they perform a 45-minute session. Week 8, a 60-minute session, etc., etc. And if an individual is strength training, they can build muscle endurance by increasing the number of reps by keeping the weight the same. Cool. I think that all kind of makes sense there. The third thing, increasing intensity. Increasing the intensity or tempo of an exercise session can improve fitness. I would agree with that. A person can do this by exercising at a faster pace or by taking shorter rests between sets. If an individual is doing cardiovascular training, they can increase the intensity by adding intervals. For example, week 1 they perform 8 intervals, week 4 10 intervals, week 8 12 intervals, etc., etc. For people who are less focused on cardio exercise, another option is to use lighter weights but lift them at a quicker pace. However, it's important to maintain form. So for example, on week 1, you performed 10 reps in 60 seconds. On week 4, you did 12 reps in 60 seconds. Week 8, 14 reps in 60 seconds. Okay, general stuff. So that's the third one. And now here's the fourth and final, just general principle, general strength training, and then we'll circle back in CrossFit terms. Number 4, increasing repetitions. Forcing the muscles to perform an increased number of reps improves muscle endurance. A person can do this by adding reps as they include them in a strength training session. For example, week 1, 3 sets of 10 reps. Week 4, 3 sets of 12 reps. Week 8, 3 sets of 14 repetitions. Okay, so that's generally speaking. And maybe that makes sense, some of those things anyway, when you think about like the 1-5-3-1 or whatnot, especially the at set intervals increasing the loading. Now let's think about those things, because one of your questions was, can I apply these general progressive overload principles to my regular workout of the day? And the answer is yes, and the answer is you're probably already doing it whether you realize it or not. So let's chat about that first one, which was increasing weight. Now we talked about all those in general terms. Here's in CrossFit terms. Increasing weight, number one, a classic heavy day. It's 5x5 back squat or deadlift or whatever it is. And the last time we did this exact 5x5 was maybe 6 months ago, right? And you look at what your loads were back then, and you've got some small change plates in your garage, and you put 5 more pounds total on the bar. That's your goal this time. Because maybe that 5x5 back squat or deadlift didn't come up for 6 months. But between then, what did we do? We did a 7x1, we did 7x2, we did 5 sets of 3, we did 4 sets of 8, we did the 2-3-5-10, 2-3-5-10, we did these other ones, but that particular 5x5 hasn't come up in, let's say, 4 to 6 months. So then it comes up again. That's a nice amount of training under your belt to try to do number one, which is increase the weight. So, this probably happens on a regular basis, whether you realize it or not, so you are doing such things. Another way to potentially increase the weight in an individual like yourself is trying to move from the scaled weight towards prescribed. So, for example, if we think about something like Fran, thank goodness Fran doesn't come up every week. But let's say the last time you did Fran, assuming the gentleman's side of the house was 95 pounds is what's prescribed. Let's say you used 75 pounds on the thruster last time it came up. A year ago, 6 months ago, whenever it was. And it comes up again, and this time you look at your notes, you see your time, you see your loading, but months of training has gone by. And so you say, instead of going from 75 pounds, well, I'm not going to bump it to 95 pounds, but I'm going to use 80 and do it this time. You've progressively overloaded your thrusters. You increased the loading right there. So there's probably ways that you're doing this whether you realize it or not. So that's increasing the weight. The next one that we talked about was increasing the length of a workout. Even though a lot of CrossFitters, that's the polar opposite of what they want to do, right? But there are ways that this makes sense. Maybe not particularly to your goals, Manny, but just chatting about this topic in general. In CrossFit terms, why would we want to increase the length of a workout? Think about something like a 5K run. So even though, Manny, you're talking about your strength, this could apply to somebody who strength is not their issue. It's legs, lungs, endurance, engine building, stuff like that. And the work of the day is a 5K run. And as far as they're concerned, that might as well be 3,000 miles. Like, it's way out of reach. So they do the scaled option when it came out. Instead of being a 5K run, it was in a 20-minute window. You run, jog, walk, or any combination of that. 10 minutes out, 10 minutes back, see the distance that you covered. Several months later, whatever, this comes back around again. You've been doing all this other training in the meantime, and you're still not quite ready for a 5K. But you say, you know what? I'm not going to do it in a 20-minute window again, although you could if you want to retest and see where you are. You say, I'm going to do it in a 25-minute window. Well, then what did you do? You increased the length of your workout. Progressive overload principle. Easily, and without even overthinking it, applied to your daily training. So things like this most certainly do occur. Or you could also do this with like a mixed modality workout. If we stick with the classic Fran example, increasing the length of your workout, right? As you're building. Because maybe one of the ways that you scaled Fran was not only, instead of using 95 pounds, you used 75 pounds, but you also scaled the rep range because you just weren't ready for a 21-15-9. So you did it as 15-12-9. 6 months of training has gone by. Fran comes back up again, and you say, you know what? Not only am I going to do the 80 pounds, but I'm going to do it as 21-15-9. You have increased the workout in that manner. Same principle applied. Again, probably effortlessly without you even thinking about it. These are just baby steps of appropriately challenging yourself, whether it's rep range, whether it's loading, whatever it happens to be, you're just appropriately challenging yourself. Or you can call it overloading, or you can call it whatever you want. But all of us do this on a regular basis using that strength and conditioning IQ, that fitness IQ, to think about where we were, where we are right now, and what makes sense today. So these things apply. This one will speak to everybody, doing Linchpin or doing whatever. Increasing intensity. So we chatted about that with the regular strength program, so to speak, but in CrossFit terms. So increasing intensity. You can do the workout faster, right? Dance with the devil, right? And so that makes sense to a lot of people. You do the workout faster, you increase your intensity. If all the things were the same, if the reps were the same, if the loading was the same, and you do it faster than you did last time, you produce more average power, more intensity. Other ways that you can increase your intensity as well. You hold a quicker average pace on something like we did the other day, the 10 by 250 meter row efforts, for example. You look back to what you did last time, and this time you try to shave whatever, a little bit off of each one. As long as your rest periods were the same at the end, the overall time is lower, rest periods were the same, you had a more intense workout. Or for a 6 by 400 meter run, again, if the rest periods are the same, you're good to go. That's if you increase the pace of those runs or those rows, you're increasing the intensity. But you could also increase the intensity a different way as well. Maybe your goal, the next time the 10 by 250 meter row sprints or the 6 by 400 meter runs come around, is you're not going to try to increase your pace. You're going to try to hold the exact same pace on that row or the run as you did 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, whenever it came up. But what you're going to do is decrease your rest periods. Because last time the 10 by 250 meter effort came up, you took 3 minutes rest between each one of those. And today you're going to take 2 minutes and 45 seconds rest between each. And you successfully did that, and you held the same pace as last time when you had 3 minutes rest. Same pace, less rest, more intensity. Good job. So there are different ways to go about this. Another way, circling back to the Fran example, that you could increase your intensity, we talked about doing the exact same workout but just faster, is maybe, if you did Fran 6 months ago at 75 pounds and you did it in 5 minutes, and today you did it in 80 pounds, you added 5 more pounds, and you did it in 5 minutes, more intensity, because you did the exact same rep scheme, you did the exact same time, but you had a bit more load on the bar. That's more work. More work in the same period of time is intensity. And of course, more intensity again is had that classic heavy day, 5x5 dead, 5x5 squat, whatever, and you had your rest periods the exact same, but you had a little bit more weight on the bar, and you successfully executed that rep scheme with the same rest periods, you had a more intense session. So all this stuff, again, is probably happening. You're probably applying these principles through just having been around CrossFit for 12 years and common sense and whatnot, whether you realize it or not. And there was the other part of increasing intensity, which was for, some other ways to do it. Okay. So maybe for Fran, you can grind through a prescribed Fran at 95 pounds. Okay. The pull-ups are okay for you, but the load is a beast. Okay. Let's just take that person, for example. Yep. I'm good with body weight stuff, but man, that 95 pounds, it murders me. But I do Fran, 21:15:9, 95 pounds in the bar. It's rugged. It takes me 10 minutes. Cool. Well, now, maybe when it comes around again this time, you choose to do Fran, even though you've done it before at 95 pounds, but it took you 10 minutes. You choose to do it at 80 pounds. So you've significantly lowered the load of the barbell. And that was the thing that was pesky for you. And now you do it in 5 minutes instead of 10. You have significantly increased the intensity of that workout, even though you lowered the load, because the time domain was reduced so significant that the 15 pounds less in the bar kind of didn't matter with regards to your power output right there. So there's multiple ways to attack this, and all of them have value, because grinding through heavy weights have value. Moving moderate weights have value. Moving light weights really fast have value. And all of these things help produce an adaptation in your body to make you fitter, faster, and stronger. And again, variance is a beautiful thing. And so if you think back to a classic linear strength cycle or whatnot, you're getting some of these elements, but not all of them, which is also why, again, they have value. People do them. I'm just telling you what I've seen. Most people, most circumstances, most of the time. But there's going to be a whole lot of things that are really useful to building strength that will most likely not be present in that program. What's another example of something you don't see in like a lot of linear strength progression cycles like that make people just ferocious beasts of fitness and explosive and strong? 10 by 100-meter sprints. You want to squat more and dead more and power clean more? Sprint your tail off. Be an explosive, fast athlete. 5 by 50-meter sprints. Those 10 250-meter row intervals we did the other day. 8 by 200-meter repeats. Things like that. Again, variance is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Okay, so the final one. You tried to get me off track there, but you failed. I'm back on track now. The final one was increasing repetitions as the general principles from a basic level of progressive overload. And we talked about that as a regular strength program, but now let's talk about what might that mean in CrossFit terms. Increasing repetitions, that makes sense for a lot of people. You get more reps or rounds in an AMRAP style workout. Classic, Cindy. Used to get 15 rounds of Cindy, this time you get 16 rounds of Cindy. Great, that's increasing repetitions. I lost track here. This also occurs, I would say, as your just overall fitness improves. And maybe this is just my interpretation of increasing repetitions, but you could be able to bite off larger chunks of work as your overall fitness improves. And so, if back to our classic Fran example, maybe at whatever load it used to be, when you were still improving your strength, it was so challenging that first set of 21 was 3 sets of 7. And then, as you improve, you can now start to bite off a set of 10 to open up. That's a really big deal. And then eventually it's a 15 and a 6. Like, that's a really big deal. And the same thing happens to pull-ups and whatnot. So as you improve, you're also increasing repetitions when you touch the bar in ways that might not be readily apparent to you, just kind of thinking about it. So anyway, that's a general overview of progressive overload and a general overview of how you might be applying those things to your just daily workout, whether you realize it or not. And like I said, I think the appeal of progressive overload is it is relatively simple. You just look at it, you follow the plan, and you hope that it works well for you. But again, you can't just repeat it ad nauseum forever. Like, there is a plateau sometime looming in your future right there. So that's that. Let's circle back to the other part of your question, which is, should you just suck it up and just do the prescribed loadings even if they're profoundly challenging for you? And because they're so challenging, you're going to have to take larger rest periods, bigger breaks, and because of that, your heart rate might come back down. You've got this compromised metabolic stimulus, I think you said. Maybe you fall outside the goal time and all that kind of stuff right there. Is that another option as well? Yeah, yes, that's absolutely an option. Again, under the general, hopefully common sense protocols of what you're lifting, you can lift safely with proper form, okay? But in all honesty, that's how most people, and now allow me to use that terrible saying of back in the day, but that's how most people back in the day just got fitter, faster, and stronger. Because we were just pig-headed, stubborn, ignorant, and quite frankly didn't know any better. I mean, myself and all my knucklehead friends, just whatever the workout was, we just did the workout and it just took what it took. There were no goal times. I think the first time we did Fran, it was like a 20-minute experience. I mean, we got buried by Fran. The thrusters, I can't even imagine how broken up they were. And we were actually decent at pull-ups, but not after we did thrusters. All of a sudden, our precious pull-ups went away too. So both parts of that equation, of that Fran equation, just stole our lunch money and decimated us. And it did not resemble a short and sharp workout. Again, it was easily 20 minutes. And then we suffered through whatever the next workout was, a 225 deadlift. Oh my goodness. I mean, that was probably done as like 7 sets of 3, quite frankly, with like big walks around the garage. And over the course of weeks and months and literally years, that 20-minute Fran became 15 minutes, and then it became 12 minutes, and then it became 8 minutes, and then it became 5. It just went down. And that 225 deadlift, through just continually struggling with it and struggling with the next workout and struggling with the next one, it wasn't 7 sets of 3 anymore. It was whatever, 6, 5, 5, 5, and then it was 10-6-5, and then it was 15 and 6, like, and then it was an unbroken 21. Now, the question becomes, yes, that worked, and I know that that worked for myself, all my friends, and a tremendously huge amount of other people. Is there a more efficient path that, had we had some more knowledge, some more strength and conditioning IQ, that we could have done a little bit of everything? We could have intelligently approached heavy days and respected them and given them everything they needed to be effective. We could have also just had some days where, like, you know what, this is an area that we need to improve. We're going to allow ourselves to struggle, and it takes what it takes. And then, since variance is a wonderful thing and you don't want every day just to be a miserable struggle, then you know what we're going to do on today? We're actually going to knock the loading down a lot, and we're going to go fast today because that has value too. And we're going to take a step back and realize all these intentional, deliberate, useful points of variance and make sure that we're applying them equally over the week. And we're actually going to do this amazing thing of, like, listening to our bodies, seeing how we're feeling, making sure that we're actually recovered. How's your central nervous system doing? Because if I walk into that heavy day with a smoked central nervous system, and heavy is like one of these areas that I really want to improve, but I've been just beating the stuffing out of myself all week, thinking I have to always grind through the heavy weight every day, no matter what it takes. Then I slide under the bar for a 5x5 back squat, and shocker, it doesn't go well because I'm smoked. So yes, all of these things have value, and if you've developed your strength and conditioning IQ, which I'm sure that you have since you've been doing this for 12 years, you could take a step back, look at the week, look at where you need to improve, look at the days that you want to attack. Here's the heavy day. I want to make sure I'm walking into that well rested. This is the day I'm just going to allow myself to struggle, but I can't do that every day because I'll be just a zombie in the gym and then I won't make good gains. So I'm going to take my foot off the gas on this day. On this day, you know what? I'm going to cut the weight in half and burn this sucker to the ground. Fast, fast, fast. That probably would have been a far more efficient approach for myself and all my knucklehead friends. And that's what we're trying to get across with Linchpin, with these podcasts, with the Ask Me Anything, with improving your strength and conditioning IQ, and all about that kind of good stuff right there. What I would also say for you, Manny, is to make sure on those lifting days, like the classic heavy days, you are really attacking them with a purpose. And you might be. Again, you and I need to talk. You might be. But I mean, giving them the respect that they deserve. So when, like, that workout we did yesterday, the back squats, it was multiple times when I had the appropriate loading on the bar. And as I walked up to the bar, I had like butterflies in my stomach because I was nervous, because I knew that we're going to war on this set. And I knew that it was safe and appropriate, but it wasn't going to be easy. Like, I'm going to have to dig deep. That's how we should be approaching these heavy days, right? And if you do that, there's a really good chance that good things are going to occur. And now also for where you want to be, Manny, I would also say, each week you're going to have a classic heavy day. And the overwhelming majority of the time, you're also going to have a heavy day at a high heart rate. And then there's going to be 3 other workouts, right, out of the 5 training sessions. If through an honest assessment your gymnastics are good, engine's good, it really is the strength components holding you back, I've got no drama with you really emphasizing those 2 days. And you're 40 years old, so there's a good chance you can't burn it down every single solitary day and recover and feel good. So you're going to have to probably, for you, take your foot off the gas every now and then. So out of the 5 training sessions, emphasize that classic heavy day and emphasize that heavy day at a high heart rate when you look forward to the week. And for that heavy day at a high heart rate, if you can safely move those loadings, but you're just going to fall outside the goal time, then the heck with the goal time. Don't worry about it, because that's actually where you need to be. And then on those other 3 days, depending on how you feel that week and all that stuff, you can have some low intensity sessions. You can really knock down the weight on one day and burn it down, have a send a day. Like, all those good things can still occur, but I'd have no drama with you doing that, and it might work really, really well for you. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything here. And yeah, I think that's probably good. Strength. This. What's funny is this show will probably get a lot of views because the podcast title is Progressive Overload and Strength. People love strength, and don't get me wrong. There's a reason why every week we have a classic heavy day and a heavy day at a high heart rate. That's, you know, 2 out of the 5 trainings. That's 40% of the week's training. Strength is profoundly important, and you want to develop, especially later in life, for muscle mass, general health, the whole 9 yards. But the other ends of the fitness spectrum are so mission critical as well, which is why Linchpin and just CrossFit in general, like we're greedy. We want it all, right? I want you to be strong. I want you to have an engine. I want you to have body weight capacity as well. And I want you to be able to do it all when your heart rate is at a near maximum output. Okay? Because also just what I see a lot in life, quite frankly, especially from people who I'm out in the dad world at these sports games and these things, and most people, don't enjoy what Fran feels like, right? But lifting, we can get most people to lift. And I see these dads my age out there trying to run around with their kids, and it doesn't matter what their squat and their deadlift is. They're winded in 2 minutes, and they're useless and winded. So being really, really, really strong and having no other capacity might be really great in a powerlifting competition and profoundly not useful in the real world. As soon as the time domain goes beyond 90 seconds or your heart rate gets really high, your deadlift is just like cut in half and your back squat disappears and you're just sucking wind bent over at the waist like that. So that's not, we don't want strength at the expense of all else. We want to develop a tremendous amount of strength and engine and gymnastics and have it all combined together. And so that's the goal of what we got going on here. Let's see. Oh, is that it? Okay, I think we're good here. Oh, Natalie, what do you say here? Natalie, how do you feel about doing some low intensity cardio on rest days, like the bike erg for 15 to 20 minutes while reading? I've noticed I feel super tired at work when I don't wake up early to work out. I got no drama with that at all. And again, the typical unsatisfying answer, right? It really does. You're an N of one, like you're your own test subject in laboratory, right? We all know of a crazy lunatic out in France that doesn't know what rest day means, and follow him on IG, like he's always doing just long, slow runs on the off days. Clearly treats him well. Somebody might need a full rest day is what makes them actually feel the best. Other people might find if they do something low intensity for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever that time domain is for you, you actually feel better. The body moves. You don't feel quite as tight afterwards. You get things moving just gently. You get a nice stretching session after that. Everything in your life feels better. The next day in the gym feels better. Man, if everything in the gym in your life feels better, I would have to say that the answer is yes, right? And so to each their own. And oh yeah, what Melanie says, yes, that she had that same feeling on those squats, right? Oh, and Manny, that's what I wanted to say. Manny, we need to chat. We do need to chat because something is peculiar, my friend, okay? Because I looked at you did the squats yesterday as well, the 3, 5, 7, and 9. And the final lift that you did, the 11, you did at 80 kilograms, which is 176 pounds on the barbell, okay? That should have been for a set of 11. And you say on the last set of 11 reps, I felt good. So I decided I could keep going for a few more reps. After 15, which by the way, I wouldn't have wanted to do 15 with the weight that I had on for 11. After 15, I felt it would be a shame to stop there. So in the end, I managed somewhere between 22 and 26 repetitions at that final weight. Wobbly legs. Yes, I would say you have wobbly legs. I would also say, again, I feel like I'm missing something. If that final load that you had in the bar, you executed 26 repetitions with instead of 11 repetitions, I don't feel that you had the proper loading on the bar relative to your capacity. So we got to make sure that and maybe today I'm open to the fact that this is just an anomaly today. That's fair. It could be just an anomaly. But like when we talk about hitting the heavy days, the respect that they deserve, and um, that butterflies up there in your stomach. If I could have executed 26 reps with that final set, I wouldn't have had butterflies walking up to try to do 11. So we got to make sure that all of these things in our house are in order to hopefully set you up for the most success as possible. So, Manny, hit me up, email at crossfitlinchpin.com. And with that, everybody, that's our show. So, have a wonderful day. Enjoy your Thursday, and I will see you online.